There's something I noticed personally when I started playing with modern controls, and you might have noticed it yourself, is that it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And what do I mean by that is, so, in a lot of games, square is your default button, for attacking, right? Or your fastest one, like square is a light. In here, it's like, oh, okay, cool. Square is a light, makes sense, all right? And then you get, I'm assuming most of you, a good number of you, will go to triangle, right? Like X is usually your jump or a special button. But triangle, it's like, wait, what? Special button? Okay, that's weird. Then you go to circle, you're like, wait, heavy, or maybe R1 if you are actually used to playing Street Fighter, and then for some reason X is just a button. So basically what I'm saying in short is these button control scheme just does not make sense. I think it is awful. So I am here to teach you guys the correct way, or what you should be doing, when you first hop into modern controls, for a much better experience that actually makes sense. Because currently as it is, I do not like the current configuration for the control settings. So the way you do this, you could also do this in the main menu. You go just control settings, and you're already, as you see here in custom, go to edit control mapping. Now the first setup, now what I will say by default is definitely try to set this up to something that you are used to, right? Like if there's a fighting game that you are particularly used to, or maybe even shooters, for example, like if you play shooters, it's okay setting your attacks to the triggers. There is nothing absolutely wrong with that. If you want setting the special buttons to something else, it is completely fine. There's all kinds of schemes. I might make different videos, like, oh, if you're a Call of Duty player, do this. But for now, I want to focus on something that'll probably make the most sense, right? So the first scheme I want to work off the bat is for people who want to start in modern and want to eventually transition to Street Fighter, right? So this is what I would say first. So light attack, I would say by default, leave light attack at square. That's a good start, right? So you just, by the way, you just go over and then you hold the button that you want to switch it over to. Well, in that case, that's a bit weird. So when you switch it, you have to, it's weird. Anyways, back on track here. So medium attack, I would say put to triangle. Make sure you put medium attack to triangle. That is something that I recommend a lot of you do, regardless of what your scheme is. And then set heavy to R1. Why is that? Because R1 by default is the heavy for Street Fighter. So when you transition, like we'll show a quick example, right? In transition to say I'm clicking Nuke, right? This is his light. This button is going to be the same even in classic, right? And this button is the same exact button when you go to classic. So you get what I'm saying? This is going to be for you guys who want to transition from modern to classic. This button is not the same. This is actually his heavy kick, but his back heavy is exactly the same. So you guys are getting what I'm saying, right? It'll be a lot easier to transition from your buttons if the buttons are more or less the same, like your light is going to be the same and the function is exactly the same. Like, see this down heavy? This is actually the exact same heavy in classic. So now I'm already liking this scheme a lot better, right? So cool. That's one reason, right? And oh, by the way, I was like, okay, cool. So that'll make sense, right? I think this for most of the casts you do that. But if your character, say a kick character, a very hit kick character, like say Chun-Li, then I would recommend, say your light attack, make it X circle R2. So if your character is a kick heavy character, X circles R2. But now I want to get to the default one. So let's go back to what it is, right? So square, triangle, R1. Your special move, again, like I mentioned before, set it to what you're most comfortable, right? So for me personally, I'm very used to obviously fighting games and say like anime fighters in particular. So for a special move, X would be completely fine. It's not out of the realm. X is a perfectly good spot for special moves. So again, for you, if there's a game you're still, like say maybe you play Mortal Kombat, say if your supers, I don't know what they're set to, right? I think it's L1, R1. Set whatever you're comfortable with, right? So whatever you feel is like a big impact button, set it to that, right? And drive, parry, I don't know why that's set to circle. I'm not entirely sure why that's circle. Like I said, you can always set drive impact. Like for me, I think I would set drive parry to, I don't know. Like to me, drive impact is a chunky button. So I would personally set it to, let's say, R2, right? Then assist. So this is like the auto combos. This one is also kind of hard, but I would suggest, like say if you're like a Naruto Storm player, used to meshing with square or circle, right? I would say set it to whatever your block button is. Same for Mortal Kombat players. So for me, I could be wrong. I think block is L2, right? So I would set my auto assist to L2. And then grabs. Oh, so grabs. Well, we'll get back to that. So if you want to set your grabs, because normally grabbing in Street Fighter is square and X, but because you changed the layout, that is no longer the case. Now it's square triangle, I believe. But you could just set a shortcut which by the way, it is light and medium. So in this case, it's set to L1. And again, so for whatever your game is, what a grab is, set that to light and medium. And whatever your block is, set it to assist. Because in Street Fighter, you have to hold back to block. So now we will test those, right? So see, auto combo, yep, set to grab is set to, you know, L1. But if you're like a Guilty Gear player, you can set it to like R1, right? So, but that's a different scheme. So for you anime players, feel free to check out the next video after that. But yeah, that's just all I wanted to talk about, you guys, is make sure your buttons are square, triangle, R1 for your light, medium, heavy, and X for your special move, or again, whatever game you're used to, and drive parry for circle. I'm not entirely sure. I guess we'll get more into it, you know. And of course, set your button, you know, grab, or if anything, I have a bit. If you want, set grab to circle, and then set parry to L1. I think that would be a better idea. Whatever you think feels comfortable, go for it, right? That's what I would recommend. So of course, now we're switching them. For me personally, I'm gonna set drive parry to L1, and then I'll set grab. See, because it's right there. It's your attack buttons. So that's what I would recommend, right? Set your special buttons to like R2, L1 for drive parry, and then when you want to pretend like you're blocking, say you're Naruto, hold block, which is L2 in this case, then just mash, you know, either square, triangle, R1, right? See? And then you'll be good. And remember, your special move is always going to be X, or whatever we're used to, right? Whatever you think, you know, Naruto, like triangle, circle, if you want, like if you're really used to that, have... Well, the thing is you have to hold it. You can't just tap it, right? But yeah, that'll be about it, you guys. This is, hopefully this was helpful. And again, feel free to do however you want, whatever's comfortable. This is for me what my setup personally would be. I mean, heck, I don't really play modern controls, so I can't exactly say for sure how guaranteed this is. But for anime fighting game players, feel free to check out the video right after this one for what your setup should be. And even for you guys, maybe this might be a setup that might make more sense to you guys. So feel free to check that out.